We're here to make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's March 17th here in Seoul. I'm Shin Yeun, and this is News Generation, where we make the news at Arirang's very own open studio. Every morning, we'll discuss the top issues and latest current affairs affecting people in their 20s and 30s. Joining me in the studio is Kim Xiang.
Good morning, yeah.
And Park Gi-hoon.
Happy Friday!
Happy Friday!
Friday.
Both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. Now, we'll start with the news feed. This is the time we look at which hashtags and news items have been trending over the past 24 hours. The first hashtag is 전두환. He's the former president of Korea who died 2 years ago and who seized power through a military coup in 1979. He's notorious for the bloody crackdown on the pro-democracy uprising in Gwangju, which killed hundreds, including young students. From Monday, his grandson Chun Woo-won posted photos and revelations about his grandfather on social media. He called his grandfather a slaughterer and said his father and stepmother have been living their lives using suspicious black money. Chun said he came out on social media because he thinks he and his family should pay for their sins. The second hashtag is Maid Cafe. The first of its kind opened here in Seoul on Wednesday. Maid cafes are mainly found in Japan, and there's a lot of these cosplay restaurants where waitresses dress up as maids and act accordingly. They treat their customers as masters in a private home rather than visitors at a cafe. The last hashtag is GPT-4. OpenAI, the mother of ChatGPT, on Tuesday unveiled its latest updated chatbot, GPT-4. The latest chatbot accepts longer text inputs of up to 25,000 words compared to the previous 3,000. It can also take a photo of a hand-drawn picture for a website and turn it into an actual one. It can also analyze them and describe what's happening. Now, the latest version has only been available to paid users. Now, let's take a look at the second hashtag in more detail, Maid Cafe. As it's the first maid cafe to be launched in Korea, many were hyped to see what this is about. On its opening day, reservations for the whole month instantly became fully booked. Many also left comments on relevant articles. Some said they were excited to see this distinctive Japanese cafe culture here in Korea. Others were worried that it could develop into a decadent business where illegal activities are done. But the cafe made it clear that this would never be the case. Now, here in the studio, let's hear what our panelists think, speaking on behalf of the younger generation. So, Ki-hoon, would you ever like to go to this maid cafe?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Even though I'm a huge fan of Japanese culture, from food, fashion, animation, and so on, I don't think I'm quite into this kind of maid cafe culture, because I do enjoy trying new things out and experimenting, but I think I'll feel a little too uncomfortable being in this kind of setting. But I'm sure there'll be, the passionate minority fan base, because as it is already booked out, and I'm sure a lot of YouTubers will visit this place to create new kind of content, because it's a new culture, right?
It's definitely very unique as well. Now, what about you, Xiang? Would you visit?
I mean, to be honest, I think it's a terrible trend that could easily sort of relate to the over-sexualization of women as subordinates. And, you go to this maid cafe and they'll, treat their customers, call their customers master as well, dress up as maids, and sort of, serve them in manners, I guess, they wouldn't be normally done in a cafe. I mean, these maid cafes have benchmarked the historically popular trend in Japan, as you've mentioned. And in fact, there has been previous attempts, apparently. I've read some articles, Korean articles on it, that there has been maid cafes in South Korea, but they failed as a business venture, as a business model. And I think the newest attempt is happening right now. And we'll have to see how it actually pans out in the near future.
Right, we'll definitely see how it rolls out. And that was our news feed for this Friday. Moving on, let's head into our main discussion for today. Take a look at the screen to find out what we'll discuss. In recent years, we've seen more people get interested in investment. Here in Korea, most young investors went to the stock market. That's because at the beginning of the COVID-19 outbreak, interest rates were low, so savings accounts at banks didn't give back a hefty return. But since last year, as the Fed aggressively raised interest rates, many banks, including those in Korea, have been providing more promising saving packages. Around the same time, the stock market seemed to be less profitable than investors had hoped, which led Millennial and Gen Z investors to look for other options to make money. From cryptocurrency to art to apps that pay you for doing mundane daily activities like walking. Today, News Gen looks at 3 questions. 1. Why are millennials, Gen Z looking for various options of investing rather than saving their money at a bank? 2. What are some unique or distinctive investing methods they follow? 3. What's the most ideal way to invest? I think this week of all weeks, we've seen so many headlines related to the stock market and investment, and that's because we saw the biggest U.S. bank run in more than 10 years with the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. And personally for me, this news made me look back at how I'm investing, so I thought it'd be better to disperse out my savings. But here in the studio, what do you guys think? How do you guys invest?
Yeah, I mean, before we actually go into how we invest ourselves, Kyun and I, we should look into how investment trends for young people in South Korea look like. In South Korea, it is quite interesting that the majority of young people tend to stick to more traditional investment methods. Let's have a look at the 2021 survey conducted by the Federation of Korean Industries. As we can see, the majority of young Koreans put their money in either deposits or installment savings with major banks, which came through to around 37.5%. Stock trading came in as close second at 33%, followed by increasingly popular virtual assets such as cryptos and NFTs at 10.3%. And lastly, real estate at 9.8%. Real estate traditionally requires larger seed money to even consider investing in, which explains why it might have come last on the list.
I see. So based on these options, have you ever tried any one of them out, Ki-hoon?
To be honest, I only started investing only a few years ago
Right.
due to a lack of interest and knowledge.
Right.
And the first type of investment I did was in stocks, both in the Korean and the US stock
Right.
market. And there was a period where I actually made a lot of money, a lot of profit. But that was only for a moment, and
Beginner's
it all
luck,
just
I
tumbled
guess,
down into
yeah.
the minus range. And now I lost all my gains and much of my initial sum that I put in the first place.
Right.
So now I just tend to save up cash by writing account books, even using
Wow.
Fantastic.
an app on my phone. And the reason behind this is to make sufficient seed money and do enough research and invest in a relatively safe and low risk savings package, because I don't really like to gamble with my money because I'm not good at gambling either. I'm not a good gambler.
All right, and before we
Responsible.
continue our discussions, we're going to find out more about how millennials and Gen Z here in Korea have been investing from an econ professor. Then we'll continue our discussion. Joining us through Skype is Professor Lee Seohyun from the KDI School of Public Policy Management. Great to have you here, Professor Lee.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, Professor, as we briefly mentioned, the SVB crisis has caused a ripple effect. New York state regulators shut down Signature Bank, a big lender in the crypto industry, and that's been causing a lot of anxiety and confusion among investors. So when do you think everything will subside, and what are some cues we should be looking for before we invest?
Yes, actually, indeed, there has been another ripple effect most recently. Stock price of Credit Suisse tumbled rapidly due to the loss of confidence of investors. Actually, right after the collapse of the stock market prices, the Swiss central bank injected their credit lifeline credit, about $54 billion to the market to ease the anxiety. And also in the aftermath of the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank, the Fed introduces, new support packages, including $160 billion of, credit through its traditional discount windows, and also introduce a new facility for the emergency. Even though the liquidity is ample, partly due to the support from the central banks, I think it is still, expected to have some turbulence in the market. This is basically because the investors are very worried about whether the bank business model is still profitable in the environment of very rapid interest rate hike. So I think you should sort of wait and see until the high uncertainty periods fades away.
Of course, I
Definitely.
think time will tell. So, Professor, I have another question. How are millennials and Gen Z investing in general, you think? And any distinctive traits they have compared to other generations previously? And how are our attitudes towards investment different?
Younger generation tend to be, getting the financial information or advice from social media more than, other traditional sources of information. And also during the pandemic, they started to invest it in the stocks due to the low-cost brokerage services like Robinhood in the US and easy access to the investment through the different devices like the apps in the mobile phone. So younger generations invested recently a lot in stocks and cryptocurrency rather than, other traditional financial assets. And due to the influence of social media, younger generations tend to have a get-rich quicker mindset, expecting a very rapid, double-digit returns in a short period. And also, they are frequent traders with the help of the technology. And also, it is found that they're self-directed investors, learning, about the investment strategies and other information from social media by themselves. So, also, they are new entrants to the market, and it is widely studied that the new entrants tend to invest in high-risk assets, and without, understanding the risk they, have. So this is basically the brief descriptions of what the young generations invest and how they invest.
Sure. Professor Lee, last question for you. As an expert, could you give us some guidelines on what would be the most effective way to save up? And is there ever an easy way out where you can earn a lot of money in a short amount of time whilst not being exposed to too much risk?
Yes, basically to the second question, there's no free lunch. This is like a basic fundamental, principles of economics. So I think a good strategy would be a long-term investment, starting early either to save in the banks or to invest in other financial assets. And also diversifying risks and, avoiding high fees would also be a successful factor. And, as you all probably know, checking the value of investment portfolio that you have multiple times a day would not be a best strategy because they tend to lead to, frequent trading and also a very speculative trading, which would have like low returns historically. So I think looking for different opinions about the investment or other informations of the financial market so that you can fully understand the underlying risks of the different assets and make informed decision-making in investment. For example, one of the traditional way of doing investment is called mean variance optimization, which basically means that you would like to get higher yields or returns given a level of risk that you can bear with. So basically, I say like a lot of traditional methodologies, but I think up until now, this is kind of a best known, strategies to get returns.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Lee. I will also try to keep it in heart that there's no freebies when it comes to investment.
Right.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to be hearing what you guys thought about Professor Lee's interview throughout the discussion, but why don't we now use this time to hear what our viewers had to say and whether we could find out what type of ways they invest. So here's what they had to say. Take a look at the screen. Tiras Bell said, I have something called a Roth IRA as well as savings. A Roth IRA, in simple terms, is an account that I put money into that when I get old enough to own it long enough, I'll be able to use it tax-free. Hyun Kim says, I always want to expand my investments, but the global financial market doesn't look safe because of the ongoing war. And it's becoming more and more difficult to understand what I'm actually investing in. Anmol Agrawal said, I have a savings account and I'm looking into investing in cryptocurrency and stocks. Now, before we extend our discussion, guys, which comment did you find most fascinating? Starting with Xiong.
Yeah, I mean, Tiara's Bell's comment, I think, would be a common way to sort of secure your funds as well, to securely invest. Something like IRA, individual retirement arrangements, is a sort of tax exempt until a certain amount of profit you make. So, I mean, there's different names, under different names they operate in different banks as well. Some of them are called ISAs, IRPs and things like that. And it's definitely a more safer way than going for a more sort of aggressive investments in stocks and trading.
Right, what about you, Gi-hoon?
I do agree with Kim Gyu-yeon's comment, saying that it's very difficult to understand what you're actually investing in. So what I think is, take your time. At the same time, make your seed money, and diversifying your investment plan is very important as well.
Definitely.
And just be patient.
As what we heard from Professor Lee as
Right.
well. All right, every day we do upload questions related to our discussion topic for our viewers to answer. And if you want to participate, please search ArirangNews on YouTube, look into our community tab, and the link is right below. Now, we're going to hear from our panelists once again and find out how they invest. So any unique methods you guys tried out?
Yeah, I mean, I tried a variety of different methods of investment, starting from the obvious sort of more traditional ones, like stock trading in different markets, as well as some crypto-related assets as well. But I guess more unique methods of investing would be sort of, investing in high-value merchandise like luxury wines, watches, as well as artwork. But then, obviously, as we know, it takes a lot of seed money. You need to be able to cover the costs, the initial costs that are put in to buy these items. But more risk-free but unique method I've tried out is sort of crypto-related, NFT-related method. There's this software, I guess, if you can call it, called Steppen. And it basically generates income if you walk around after you bought the non-fungible token shoes. So you can walk around or jog around, and depending on the distance you've covered and the speed you're walking or running, you actually get some tokens which can be exchanged for actual cash. So there are definitely a variety of interesting methods, more and more so as technology develops, which we can check out as well.
Right, and what about you, Ki-hoon?
Interesting. I haven't really tried any unique type of investments because due to the big loss that I experienced from the stock market. But I've seen a lot of friends around me who have made money through reselling.
Right.
So I had my ex-co-worker, he was into Legos. And what he did was he bought Legos from overseas, like limited edition Legos, and he would sell it to Lego lovers in his community for like a big price. And that's how he made his profits with a big margin. So I think looking at those kind of people who make money through resale, that also requires a lot of time and effort as well. So at the end of the day, you need to put in that effort to make money. So there's no free money.
I think it's quite interesting because the unique methods you guys mentioned sort of align with what Professor Lee just told us. With easier access to technology and more information, our method seems to be diversifying. But why do you think our generation is so interested in looking for more ways to earn money quick, or per se, freebies?
I mean, simply put, everybody wants to become rich, right? Like all of us, right?
Yes.
And like the quick money seems to be the easy way out, but that's not always the case. So.
It isn't.
And answering your second question, like living standards have changed over generations. Back in our parents' generation, purchasing a house, having your own family was quite possible if you had a stable job. But nowadays, we talked about this before with buying houses. It's close to impossible to own your own house, let alone get married and even have kids. So I think it's due to high inflation and increased cost of living. I think the living standards have totally changed. That's why people are opting to get quick money through easy ways.
Right. And Xiong, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with what Ki-hoon said. I mean, general living costs are becoming a lot higher. Real estate prices are always going up. And then, but then this general level of income for us isn't actually, is in stagnation compared to all the other asset prices.
Right.
So it becomes more difficult for the younger generation to actually own anything of your own and, buy something from the income you've created. And as Professor Lee mentioned, there has been an increased accessibility to all these different technology-based investment opportunities, but also you got to remember it's a double-edged sword.
Definitely.
As you know, Kyun experienced, as I've experienced as well. You know, sometimes you think, oh, I'm going to make millions from the $1,000 I
Yes.
put in. But the next week it might have turned into nothing, as we could see from the crisis, SVB crisis and things like that.
Exactly. As the professor mentioned, you can't get richer quick.
Exactly.
It's really hard to do that. But moving forward,
Marathon.
what do you think is the most efficient and safe way to invest?
Most investment, because of course I'm no expert, but I've always had sort of general interest in investments and different investment opportunities to increase my side income. So it's always difficult to predict the future of stock markets as well as the crypto market, as we've seen with the COVID-19 related stock market shock,
Right.
as well as the SVB crisis and the shutdown of the Signature Bank more recently. Investors should actually look for transparency and accountability in companies they invest in. They should research the company's management team, as well as financial performance and track records, as well as things like PER, price-earning ratio,
Right.
more technical terms, I guess, PBR, price-book value ratio, before you actually start investing. So you have a full knowledge covering all parts of the items you want to invest in.
Right. And Ki-hoon, how will you go forward with your investment?
I realize that greed gets you nowhere.
Yes, that's so true.
So I'm not the type, to go into high risk, high return kind of savings package investment, but rather take the safer way to effectively accumulate my asset by diversifying my investment options, not going all in into just one product. And life's short, and it takes a long time to make money, but losing money takes a few minutes.
Seconds even.
Or less.
Few seconds.
Yeah.
So, you got to be wise with how you treat your money. And last thing I want to say is, treat money the same way you want money to treat you.
Treat money the way that you want money to treat
Exactly.
you.
That's the quote of the day.
Exactly, and I think
My
we'll call it a wrap.
precious.
Exactly. Let's wrap up our discussion for today. Today we found out some unique ways the new gen invests here in Korea, and we'll be here every day from 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you the topics that young people are talking about. Special thanks to Kim Seong
My pleasure.
and Park Ki-hoon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you next week. We are
News Generation.